Revelation 2269. From the 19th of March 1942. Belief in redemptive work, graces, strength and will. People have only themselves to blame if they don't find the right relationship with God because they do nothing to acquire the blessings of the act of salvation. The strength of will diminish in those whose faith in Jesus Christ and his act of salvation is weak, for they can only gain strength if they acknowledge Christ's act of salvation and make use of the graces acquired through his death. Jesus knew about the weakness of human faith and the resulting weak will, and he also knew that people could never escape the adversary's power with such a weak will. And therefore he died the agonizing death on the cross. He raised an exceedingly strong will and sacrificed this will to the Father in heaven for the whole of humanity, so that anyone who acknowledges his act of salvation can likewise request the strong will from God, and God now strengthens people's will as soon as they believe in Jesus Christ as Redeemer of the world. For these are his followers, these are his redeemed, if the will awakens in you to let yourselves be redeemed by him. There is no other path to redemption than through him, and anyone who, by believing in him, wants to be released from the oppressive power will also receive the strength to carry out his will. That is, he will be able to do everything that helps him to ascend, he will be able to establish the connection with God, he will be able to pray sincerely to him, he will become able to love, thus he will be willing to be of service and willing, and thereby be able to unite with God ever more intimately again. He will not lack strength, and his will always be turned towards God. Jesus Christ acquired this grace for people through his death on the cross. Through his death he wanted to make it easier for all people to mature spiritually, and thus he must now demand faith in his act of salvation, for if people cannot believe they will never make use of his grace and then never be able to redeem themselves through their own strength, that is, to be able to be loving and resist the adversary's hostility through their own strength. For the power of God's adversary was very great before the act of salvation, and it is still unbroken for people who do not acknowledge Jesus Christ and his act of salvation. He still has great power over them, which is the effect that their will is weak and they are unable to carry out what they want. They will always succumb to the temptation which the adversary puts in their way, for God does not helpfully stand by them because they do not acknowledge him, thus they do not make use of his help, his grace. The battle these people are now fighting is in vain. Time and again they will fall back into their faults and weaknesses because they do not consciously desire the blessings of the act of salvation on which God has made their release from the adversary's control dependent. Amen.